Alright, what's going on, y'all? A&J back with y'all again with the best of sports and pro wrestling, the best of pro wrestling and sports. Either way you slice it up, you want the best of both worlds, be right here. So with that in mind, if you enjoy what we're bringing to you content-wise, definitely hit that like, share, and subscribe. When you hit that subscribe, don't forget about that notification bell so you can know when we're coming through with new videos. And definitely don't hesitate to let me know what y'all are thinking down below. I love continuing the conversation outside of the videos. And yeah, let's just get right into it. We certainly have some things to talk about on the NBA front, specifically last night, as we saw the Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Scene shifted to Indianapolis last night for Thunder Pacers, and I feel like this was the kind of game that the Pacers needed, especially from one Tyrese Halliburton. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 rebound short of a triple-double, and it was a hell of a home debut for Tyrese Halliburton. And as I recall, he's the 7th player to have 20-plus points and, I believe, 7 or more assists in said home debut of the NBA Finals. Now, this to me says an awful lot, given the fact that there's been an awful lot of chatter about Tyrese Halliburton being voted the most overrated superstar by other superstars in the league. Now, whether or not that's really the case, I gotta just actually put it out there. You could see the argument for that actually slowly but surely going out the window, especially should the Pacers end up winning the championship. And last night was a great step in that particular direction. Now, to me, tomorrow night's game is going to be very, very important for both sides. A lot of people are of the mindset that whoever wins tomorrow night wins the championship. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm more of the school of thought who, as it's been pointed out, the winner of Game 3's win going into Game 3 with a 1-1 split, win the finals 80% of the time. And of course, that's just my preference in terms of how I look at that, because for me, even if the Thunder do win tomorrow night, which it's going to be tricky to say, 1 day's rest, and I could see the Pacers keeping the tempo going the way that they did last night to actually cause the Thunder an awful lot more problems defensively. Honestly, we'll see either way. I feel like this has definitely been every bit the series we've been looking forward to it being. And the Pacers definitely made the statement they needed to last night in terms of where they stand in this series. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how the rest of this goes moving forward. But with that in mind, speaking of looking forward to things, we got to talk about the New York Knicks real quick. And if for no other reason, they've had a really, really interesting storyline since the Eastern Conference Finals, and of course being defeated by the aforementioned Indiana Pacers. Starting with the fact that they actually fired head coach Tom Thibodeau, and after giving him a 3-year extension going into the season, so they're going to pay him for the next 3 years to not be coaching, at least not the Knicks anyway. That doesn't mean he won't be on the sidelines, say, in 2026, 2027 or anything like that. I don't know, it's just going to be really interesting to see how that all unfolds. But for me, what's even more interesting is that in New York's coaching search, they actually looked to get permission from a handful of teams to interview their coaches, all of which have been denied, namely by the Dallas Mavericks in the case of Jason Kidd, Houston Rockets, Ime Udoka, Chicago Bulls with Billy Donovan, and of course the Atlanta Hawks with Quinn Snyder, and that one's interesting in and of itself. But really, there are plenty of other candidates, a handful of which I actually mentioned before, namely Mike Malone, formerly of the Denver Nuggets, and of course Taylor Jenkins, formerly of the Memphis Grizzlies. How did I almost call them Vancouver? I mean, they were in Vancouver once in a time, but anyway. those names make a little bit more sense to me, just given their availability. But if you want to take it a step further, other names that probably make even more sense, specifically Mark Jackson, former Knicks point guard, and of course former coach of the Golden State Warriors, the coach that Steve Kerr took over for before winning 4 championships with the Golden State Warriors. And then of course there's Sam Cassell, who a lot of you, part of the Knicks fan base, may not have the most happiest memories of if you think back to the '94 finals. But I don't see how you could go wrong with either of those two. I think they make an awful lot of sense, given that they're both point guards, and that would mean an awful lot for the likes of a Jalen Brunson. Either way, you can't go wrong with any of those names. I wonder how soon we get to finding out which direction they go with that, given that these requests for interviews with these other head coaches have been denied. Yeah, going to be real interesting to see, and just for so many different reasons. We probably don't find out anything before the end of the finals. I would like to think by the time the draft comes around on the 25th, we'll see. You'd like to think they have that figured out by then, but kind of looking shaky right now where that's concerned. And with that in mind, it'd be interesting for me to bring up this main topic here, which happens to be one Irvin Magic Johnson. This particularly because he was actually a guest on both ESPN's Get Up and, more specifically, ESPN's First Take, where, interestingly enough, he talked about being an owner for the Dodgers, of course the reigning defending World Series champion, and being on the ownership group for the Washington Commanders, who, if you ask me, I feel as if the Commanders are actually going to be a Super Bowl threat sooner than a lot of people think. And of course, the fact that the Commanders are going to have a new building in the actual DC area, I feel like are going to help things significantly for the Commanders and even the Commanders fan base as we know it. But something else that was mentioned as a hypothetical was Magic Johnson being an owner of an NBA franchise. Of course, I think it's no secret his preference would be to be the owner of the LA Lakers, but I don't think Jeannie Buss is letting that one go anytime soon. And to be perfectly honest with you, the way all of that worked out when Magic was a part of those operations, it didn't exactly go the smoothest. So maybe that might not be the case. And of course, Magic did admit to the fact that he is indeed loyal to the Lakers, but he also did say that if and when, in the unlikely event that James Dolan decides he wants to sell the Knicks, he would be the first in line for that one. And I would definitely be here for it. I mean, Magic, as an owner of the New York Knicks, how does that not make sense? I mean, for one thing, you can't have Magic being an owner of any NBA franchise. I mean, it would have to be a big name city like LA, like New York. I don't see him owning the Clippers, so that's obviously out. And of course, Steve Ballmer's done a fantastic job there. But with that in mind, I would love to see if he were able to become owner of the New York Knicks. And again, think about what I mentioned before. Potential former point guards in either Mark Jackson or Sam Cassell as potential head coaches for the Knicks. And you have probably the greatest point guard in NBA history right here. I mean, the storylines write themselves, and they write them incredibly well. Again, I don't think this is very likely, but if it were to happen, you'll see me back talking about this again, pushing for this. Hopefully that is the case. And to be perfectly honest, I think James Dolan needs to go anywhere, but of course, that's far easier said than done. Yeah, there's just that. But with that in mind, I'll go ahead and leave it at that for now. And having said that, let me know what y'all think down below. I mean, Could you see Magic as an owner of the Knicks? I certainly could. Obviously, I don't necessarily think it happens, but who knows? With that in mind, y'all know what it is. If you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like, share, subscribe. Don't forget the noti bell. And of course, with that in mind, this has been your time with A&J, and I appreciate you spending it with me.